Well, we are talking about a win, so we're going to try to keep this optimistic. At what cost, right? Jesus Christ. Let's talk Knicks. The Knicks defeated the Wizards last night at MSG, I think. Let's talk. Welcome to the podcast. I'm your host, RJ Carbone. You are listening to BD4, where there's no better way to get your Yankees and Knicks analysis. We also do MMA. Yanks every series, Knicks every game, MMA on occasion. Let's get to it.
Anthony for three. Bang! That one goes down, and the game is tied.
I'd like to take this chance to apologize to absolutely nobody.
The Yankees are champions of baseball. Shaking and baking. Right here on the neophyte.
Trying to close the show.
She was doing a great job of feeding.
That is
It's over.
Don't you regret not coming to the Knicks? Don't you regret not coming to the Knicks?
Game over. World Series over. Yankees win. The Yankees win.
All right. We have some things to discuss in this episode. Welcome to the podcast. I'm your host, RJ Carbone. You are listening to episode 613 of BD4, where there's no better way to get your Yankees and Knicks analysis. The Knicks, let's dive right in. They defeated the Washington Wizards last night, 113 and 109. Okay. Entering this game, you had guys like, Josh Hart, who was questionable, ended up missing the game because of the same knee injury. Fournier took his spot, I guess, for a couple of minutes there. Jalen Brunson was questionable entering the game with the calf injury. Ended up playing. I don't know if he's going to be ready, though, for Saturday. Just we'll talk about the bang-ups that he's had to deal with. Washington was without Daniel Gafford, and I believe that might be it. But the Knicks win 113 to 109. They were pushing the pace early on. The defense was good. You had Randall get hot, but it was very sloppy basketball. They had 5 turnovers. That doesn't even do justice to how bad they looked offensively. It was 22-22. After one. And reminder, the Wizards are, now that the Pistons have gained a couple of wins in the last month, you can make a case the Wizards are, worse. They're pretty bad. Second quarter comes, and the bench is lethargic yet again. The starters come back in, but they're no better. It's really just Brunson and Randall. They combined for 28 points in the first half. The rest of the team at that time had 18 points. It was 46-45 Knicks at the break. Third quarter comes. It's back and forth still. OG Anunoby hits a couple of threes late. Brunson has that bad turnover where Washington takes back the lead in transition. It's 73-72 though, Knicks after 3. Fourth quarter comes. Dante DiVincenzo hits a pair of massive back-to-back threes early on in the period. Washington not going away. They cut it to 1 at a couple of points in this quarter. But then Jalen Brunson turns on Jalen Brunson mode, and he carries the Knicks home. And they win 113-109. And we have absolutely 1,000% got to start with Jalen Brunson's performance, and he's getting the game ball from this game.
Bing bang.
Jalen Brunson, and I think, hold on one second here. 13.
Bing bang.
Let me just change. Jalen Brunson, episode 613. I had the wrong graphic up there. Put my phone on silent. Jalen Brunson. Where do I start? What Jalen Brunson has to do for this team. Last night, man. Bad left calf. Bad right ankle. He's playing physical down low in the paint on both ends. He's taking contact from bigger players. He's giving you 40 minutes every night now. He's working extra hard for buckets as the only playmaking guard now. It doesn't matter. All that doesn't matter because Jalen Brunson is unbelievable. And last night he goes for 41 points, 8 rebounds, 8 assists, 2 steals, a block, had 6 turnovers. Who cares? Shot 14 of 27 from the floor, 2 of 4 from 3, and he was 11 out of 13 on the foul line. That is now 16 game balls on the season from Jalen Brunson. All well-deserved. He passes quickly now as the leading Knick. The next closest, I think, is Randall with 10. Let me check my sheet here. Yes. Randall with 10 is the next closest. The Brunson's 16 game balls. But, yeah, like, what this dude's got to do for this team, he's the clutch gene. Like, the dude is just a closer. He's the closer. The Yankees have Mariano. The Knicks have Jalen Brunson. Like, the fourth quarter comes last night. He's hobbled. 2 different injuries. It did not matter. 20 points, 67%, knocks down 6 shots, an additional 8 free throws in the period. It felt like if he wasn't scoring a basket, he was assisting on every make. Like, you had so many and one. The and one at the beginning of the quarter in transition. You had the and one floater at 7 minutes where Washington was about to tie the game. A minute and a half later, he drives on Morgan Bagley for a tough finish when Washington was again about to tie the game. He knocks down the pull-up jumper over Landry Shamet with 5 minutes and change to go. That puts the Knicks up 5. A minute later, it's a tight game again. I think it's a 3-point game. He drives on Shamet for another and one finish, his third in the quarter. And then with 2 minutes to go, he puts the Knicks up 7 points with another floater. I mean, this is what superstars do. This is what he does. He comes through down the stretch, and he does it so often. And because of that, he's a superstar. He's a superstar, brother. Like, all the all-star stuff, that's cool. I don't really care about that stuff. You can vote him in. Fun. Cool. I don't give a shit about all-star voting and the all-star game. I don't follow that shit. I think this dude deserves to be on the All-NBA team. One of them. Because I think he's a legitimate superstar. You know, like, for a while, the Knicks were looking for their 2 guys to lead the franchise. Then they found Brunson. And now they only need 1. And Brunson is not a star. I will say for the 4th time in a row, the guy's a superstar. He's a superstar. I don't care what Becky Hammond has to say. Any of these guys. The TNT crew. ESPN. I don't care what these people have to say. Jalen Brunson proved it last playoffs. Is continuing to prove it. Is continuing to do it. He's been so good that now the next guy that the Knicks look for in the summer, like that star guy they bring in, he can be of equal to or maybe slightly less talent-wise than Brunson. Like, it doesn't have to be a guy who's ahead of Brunson. It could be a guy who's of his caliber now. Because that's where I believe Jalen Brunson has landed now. Entering the season, I had Jalen Brunson as I believe I was saying top 35, top 30 player. I'm pretty sure I said that a couple times entering the year. Even at the beginning of the season, I think I said he has made a name for himself and he's gotten into that conversation where he's top 30. I think we're at a point, and I'm almost certain we're at a point where you can call Jalen Brunson a top 20 player. I think you can call him a top 20 player. Can you call him a top 15? That's debatable. Let's see. I went into my notes, I did the research, and the guys who you can say are better than Jalen Brunson in the National Basketball Association, in no particular order here, I have them down: Joel Embiid, LeBron, Giannis, the Joker, Luka, KD, SGA, Steph, although you can argue Brunson's having the better season, Booker, Ant-Man, AD, Dame, Tyrese, Halliburton, Kyrie, you could probably say that's debatable, but you could probably say this guy's had a Hall of Fame career, and he's probably having a similar, if not better, season. Kawhi and Tatum and Brown. So that's 17 guys right there. I have a couple guys who I'm unsure on and might be slightly worse than Brunson. And on that list is Donovan Mitchell. I personally think Brunson proved it in the Cleveland series last year. Who's the better player? That's what matters at the end of the day. Tyrese Maxey, I would say not yet, but he's got the upside. He's got more upside. Trae Young, I think that whole thing with Trae Young is a joke. I think he's a media-driven player. I think he's a good player. But I think people who say Trae Young is a better player than Jalen Brunson and the guy you prefer on your team over Jalen Brunson are probably not Knicks fans, so they probably don't watch the team, and they probably just read Basketball Reference. You could say Bam Adebayo and Jimmy Butler, sure. PG, I don't know. At this point in his career, I think I'm taking Brunson. De'Aaron Fox, I think I take Brunson over him, but that's debatable. So even with that, like that leaves him as a top 20 player. Like, it leaves him as a top 20 player in basketball. I think he is. Okay. Bottom line, what I'm getting at here is he needs more respect from national media. He doesn't get it because he might not be the biggest guy out there, Becky Hammond. He's not the most explosive athlete, right? And I think a big part of it is also because he plays on the New York Knicks, and the media doesn't like giving the Knicks positive airtime. But should not sway anybody's opinion because this dude is an unbelievable player. He's one of the best half-court scorers you're going to see in the modern era. He's a magician with the way he gets into the paint, gets to his spots using his footwork. The hezzy moves where he fakes one way, rejects the screen, gets into the lane, draws contact, throws up a floater and finish. He's one of the best scorers out there off 2 feet. The shiftiness that he plays with, his ability to change speeds so easily like that off a drive, his ability to use his body. He's relentless in the paint, the way he attacks it. And he's become a guy who many Knicks fans did not want, including myself, 2 summers ago, to a guy who's got one of the best contracts in the NBA. Jalen Brunson is amazing at basketball. And he's currently on a streak or I should say a stretch where he scored 30 points or more in 5 of 7 games since January 3rd. He's got 4 40-point games this season, including the 50-point game against Phoenix where he was fucking 9 for 9. He's tied for 5th there. He has 7. I was very curious to check this number after the game because the amount of and ones he's had the last couple of nights, you figured he had to be on the leaderboards. And it turns out with 37 and ones on the season, he's tied for 4th place. Like, the amount he's had recently, it's insane. He's 16th in the NBA in total points in the clutch, the last 5 minutes of a 5-point game. And he shoots 53% in crunch time. So, unbelievable. I just wanted to get that praise out of the way first. Because, there's an elephant in the room, and that's the bigger picture. The Knicks very soon have got to get this dude some help. So he and Randall don't break down. Because this, once again, I'll continue to hammer this down, is just not sustainable. Brunson has to work so hard for his baskets for so long. He's banged up every night, tired, carrying right now. And I just don't think this formula is very sustainable. This rotation, it was insane last night. The rotation minutes last night, man, somebody's either going to get hurt or burn out this way. There's no evidence to support that, but I don't think anybody would be shocked. Last night, let's read it off here. The starters, Dante DiVincenzo had 38 minutes. That was the least among the starting lineup. iHeart played 39 minutes. A 7-foot big, okay. Randall played 39 minutes. Jalen Brunson played 40 minutes. And OG Anunoby played 43 minutes. If you think that's crazy, in the last 3 games, where 3 of them have been in 4 nights, he's played 130 minutes. When I joked about OG Anunoby being Tom Thibodeau's new Luol Deng, I was not kidding. He's going to run this dude. That was the starting lineup. The bench, Grimes got 19 minutes, and that led the way. Precious got 9. Deuce had 8. Fournier got 5 minutes. He sat the entire second half. So, I mean, it's a 6-man rotation. It's a 6-man rotation. The starters run 40, and then Grimes is your 6th man for 20 minutes. Like, that's not a sustainable formula. You're gonna need at least 7 to 8 reliable guys come playoff time. The Knicks have 6. I guess 7 with Josh Hart. Right, but there are pretty big knee concerns there. They're not getting anything from their bench right now. Nothing. Deuce McBride had 5 points last night. That led the bench. Precious scored 2 points. Fournier scored 0 points. And Grimes scored 0 points. And we knew this was coming. Every Knicks fan knew this was coming. When the Knicks traded away Quickly and RJ, who both ran with the second units, they knew the bench was going to get weaker. It went from the best part of the team to whatever worse than the worst part of the team is, because it's like that bad. It is the most dreadful thing to watch in the world when the bench fully checks in early second quarter, early fourth quarter, to have to sit through hell for 5-6 minutes. And that's if Thibodeau doesn't get his short leash out. So, yeah, if you didn't think they needed help, like, this is why I hate so much when I go on the internet after the game and people overreact and they flip out when Deuce McBride has a good couple of games against G League competition. Folks, that's who he is. I'm sorry. It might hurt your feelings, but that's who Miles Deuce McBride is. He's going to have some good games sprinkled in, but it will mostly be quiet offensive nights from him because he's just not an offensive player. And that's okay. Knicks fans are infatuated, obsessed with homegrown players. A lot of New York sports fans are. Me personally, I don't give a damn. I'm obsessed with winning games. I'm Thibodeau. I'm infatuated with talent, with winners. I don't care if the Knicks end up trading away every single pick they had under the Leon regime, which they probably will. Fine with me as long as you get talent in return. Or something that can get you talent. Deuce McBride is just not good enough to be Walmart Quickly. He's just not. He's not consistent. Okay? That's just not the type of player he is either. That's not his role. We've said this a number of times already. Deuce is an off-ball wing who's trapped in a point guard's frame. That's just it. He's not a pick-and-roll point guard. He can run the occasional pick-and-roll on the empty side. He can attack closeouts adequately when he's in space. But he can't break down a set defense in the half court. He takes too long to get into half-court offense. And he doesn't see certain passes that other point guards would. What Deuce McBride is, he's an excellent point of attack defender who can get over screens better than anybody else. And while he has improved his ability to knock down shots on occasion, he's just not a guy who's going to do that consistently. Him shooting 46% is not going to be a thing all year. And you know what? I'll throw the guy a bone because Tom Thibodeau should probably be doing a better job trusting Deuce McBride. I thought he could have played a little bit in the second half. You know? I think he should be doing a much better job making life easier for Deuce in the bench unit. Which I guess we may as well at this point segue into that topic now. Because while I still think this is mainly the FO, I would still say 20% of it Thibs can control as the head coach. And we're going to talk about what I mean when we return from our first break here on BD4, episode 613 of the podcast. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
We appreciate you sticking around and listening so far. When you have a chance, be sure to open YouTube to subscribe, like, and comment. And if you're already watching on YouTube, be sure to head over to Apple Podcasts and give us a 5-star review. We appreciate your feedback and are always looking to improve. Now, with that all said, let's get you back to the show.
Welcome back to BD4. I'm your host, RJ Carbone, and you are listening to episode 613 of the podcast. I appreciate you stopping by. So, I totally understand this is not Thibodeau's fault, and I think anybody who's blaming this on Tom Thibodeau is a fucking joke. It infuriates me. It truly does. But I think there are times where Tom Thibodeau can get a little more creative. I would try staggering. Is there a way that Dante DiVincenzo can play early on in the second quarter and still be able to close the half? Maybe he plays 4 minutes early in the second. He checks out at the 8-minute mark, checks in at the 4-minute mark, plays the rest of the half. Is that doable? Maybe you pull him earlier in the first quarter so he can check in during the second. It's difficult because Josh Hart also didn't play last night. There's still a bit of a logjam. I feel like Isaiah Hartenstein, I feel like that's probably the best idea too, which Thibs tinkers with that in the fourth quarter as opposed to doing it in the second quarter. But maybe you pull him earlier in the first quarter so you can play Hart with the bench in the second. Because that bench, what do they desperately need? They need spacing and movement, mainly. And who brings that but Isaiah Hartenstein? As that DHO hub, playmaking from the high post, right, which is going to space the floor because the D has to come up. Screening, finding cutters, shifting and drifting off ball. Isaiah Hartenstein's a great facilitator to play with that second unit. Can you maybe play Randall and OG in a small ball 5 lineup? Now Randall alone hasn't been much better with the bench because he needs a creator out there himself. But maybe if you pair him with OG spacing the half court in the corners, Randall's now got a reliable kickout option for when the defense doubles the post. Right? Maybe you post OG onto mismatches and he finds a kick out like Grimes or Deuce. When the defense sends help, he hits up one of them. But staggering's very difficult. You can only do it so much and try to get the minutes under control. And if you're going to trust the bench, or I should say, if you're not going to trust the bench, at least make life easier when they're out there. And what I mean by that is he's got to be more innovative in his half-court sets, Thibs. You have 5 non-creators out there. Deuce McBride cannot create. Quentin Grimes cannot create. Josh Hart cannot create. OG Anunoby cannot create. Precious obviously cannot create. OG Anunoby, his best weapon, we've seen him on the ball a little bit, but his best weapon on the ball is to attack the closeout along the baseline there and then kind of throw his body at the defense to draw contact. But he's not going to give you much on the ball. Thibodeau's offense it's what it's been. It's read and react. It's a read and react offense. It's a bunch of sets and counters to what the defense reads. The Knicks get into their sets, make their reads, and then they get into an action. It's a very basic playbook for one, but it's scary to me because Thibs runs the same half-court system with or without Brunson on the floor. So he has a playbook. He has half-court sets. He has an ATO offense where he can run sideline out of bounds, baseline out of bounds actions. But it's very consistent. So it doesn't change despite having lesser talent on the floor, which it probably should. they don't really run anything. Like, if it's OG, Deuce, Grimes, Hart, and Precious struggling to find offense, struggling to create, and it's just this stagnant, clunky, sloppy, offense with no spacing, then I think you got to be a head coach and open up your playbook. Put Deuce McBride and Quentin Grimes in position so you're able to create advantages and generate decent looks. Because what I'm seeing right now is the same exact plan of attack with no adjustments. It's really hard to watch. I do wonder a little bit, and I can't remember if this was Knicks Film School or Knicks Fan TV. I was listening to both of them a little bit earlier today. I wonder if this is similar from Tom Thibodeau to what happened before the Quickly trade, when he was obviously trying to send a message to the front office during the OKC game. That was the game when he pulled Quickly with 4 minutes left. The Knicks were down 7. And that was a loss. That was the episode that we did that got me those, I don't know, 30 new subscribers overnight on YouTube. If you want to check out that episode, it's the Knicks Thunder one. I forget which number, but it's titled "The Knicks Get Thibodeau to OKC." So check that one out. So I wonder if it's something like that, where he's trying to send the front office a clear message, like, I don't trust Deuce McBride. I don't trust Precious Achua. I trust these 6 guys that I currently have. Get me some depth so I can have 7, 8, 9. Because the Knicks, once again, cannot go much longer with this formula. It's just not tenable. Playing shitty competition at home for the next month will help, maybe. But I don't know at the same time. Because, how can you navigate this tough of an Eastern Conference where seeds 4 to 8 are changing every single day without getting some help for Brunson, for Randall, for iHeart, so they don't burn out? It's not like the Knicks have a ton of breathing room. They have no breathing room. They could be 4th tomorrow, and then they could be 8th by Sunday. That's the way this has worked all year. And, it just doesn't seem like we talk about burning out. The Knicks offense, don't look now, but in their last 4 games, whether it's been with Brunson, without Brunson, with Hart, without Hart, it doesn't matter because the competition has mostly sucked. In the last 4 games, they've scored 106 points, 94 points, 109 points, and 113 last night. That's not good. That's all below league average numbers. So I'm not guaranteed that it's already happening and players are starting to burn out, but it's just something to keep an eye on because the energy, if you're watching these games, has been very low from some of these guys. So I think it needs to happen soon, but here's the tricky part about wanting to make this deal so soon. The Knicks have little leverage as it is, right? They can really barely afford to, the longer the Knicks wait to make a deal, obviously the riskier it gets with this, let's call it a 6-man rotation. But the quicker they rush into a deal, the less leverage they're going to have in this market. They'll get worse value on a deal. Sellers have the leverage, the more jumpy the buyers are. Just look at the latest this latest news on the DeJounte Murray report. Atlanta wants the Kings ransom, and the Knicks think the price is too steep. I think the holdup right now is that final unprotected pick. So I just don't want the Knicks rushing into a deal for lesser value, like an expiring contract, or like we're hearing these rumors, Bruce fucking Brown. I saw a tweet and I copied it and posted it to my Facebook. Please don't give Tom Thibodeau Bruce Brown and Josh Hart. Good God. Because that's kind of who he is. He's Josh Hart-ish. He's a poor spacer. Doesn't shoot great and doesn't shoot often. That's just going to be a disaster next to Josh Hart. He's not a great ball handler. He's got a decent short mid-range game. Can screen the ball. Can screen well. He can do the intangibles off the ball. No thanks. I think the Knicks can do better than a Bruce Brown who's got an option anyway. Like I want to be able to use Fournier's salary, Quentin Grimes, and a couple of picks on, like I've made this known, Malcolm Brogdon. I want DeJounte Murray, preferably Brogdon. Guys who can, of course, help you out in the short term, right? That's great. But most importantly to me, I want a salary that you can flip in the summer for, let's say, Donovan Mitchell, which seems to be the plan here. Right? And listen, the whole Mitchell thing, like, got to kind of step aside and talk about this for a second, but, like, the concerns about Donovan Mitchell's fit with Brunson on both sides of the ball are fair. All right? Offensively, it's like, how do two ball-dominant guards fit next to each other? And I understand that. Excuse me. I understand that. I think most star tandems, though, the whole there's only one ball thing, I think it kind of gets overblown to a degree. I think most star tandems that don't pan out is because of, well, either injury or defense. And that's what concerns me the most is the defense. Because we are in a switch-heavy era with teams just obsessed with matchup hunting. And you got teams like Milwaukee and Boston who are big, and they excel at creating advantages in a mismatch. I just wonder how a Brunson, Donovan Mitchell backcourt is going to work in this conference. It is a tiny backcourt. It is not a good defensive backcourt at all. While it has potential to be a top 3 offensive tandem in ball, it's also got potential to be not top 3, but the number 1 worst defense in the backcourt. So that's a concern. But then there's another part of me where it says, like, at the same time, beggars cannot be choosers. And what other top 15 superstar talent is out there right now? You know, you have the Donovan Mitchell situation, which is still up in air, by the way. They're playing well without Garland in them. But, you know, that's the best, most realistic situation. If he wants to opt back in next year, or if he wants to come home, or he wants to play in New York City. And, like, that side of me is like, yeah, like, the Knicks need the firepower. Stars win in this league. Like Carmelo said on the podcast the other day. Not mine. He said the game's about buckets. Get buckets. And the Knicks don't have star talent yet. Don't have enough star talent yet to be able to match up with Milwaukee, with Boston. You know? Look at the Bucks. They won the finals not long ago. They went out and got Giannis Antetokounmpo, Damian Lillard. The Boston Celtics were in the finals recently. What do? They go out and they improve their roster with major upgrades last summer. They bring in KP. Smart's out. They bring in Holiday. Look at Philly. They have Embiid and Tyrese Maxey, and there are still concerns for many people that they're not enough. So the Knicks absolutely need firepower at the end of the day, and I would make a case that I would take firepower over fit. When it comes to Donovan Mitchell, who is a top talent in this game, yeah, we need it. You need stars to win. All the other stuff you could throw out the window when it comes to certain players. And he's one to me. Anyways, they need help. Get some fucking short-term help in the meantime, because this shit cannot keep happening. It's just ugly. You know, like, we should be talking about how great the Knicks are right now, how they're 8 out of 10 since getting OG Anunoby. And I'm happy for it. But I'm concerned at the same time. You know? I mean, the bench has been so terrible that I'm about to hand Deuce McBride the game ball off the bench.
Bing bang.
Deuce McBride had 5 points last night. He's getting it because of process of elimination. Because Grimes scored 0. Because Achua sucks. He scored 2, had 1 rebound. The guy cannot play basketball in this system. And because I have Fournier LOL in my notes. Let's just put it that way. So Deuce big pride. Because of process of elimination. Him and his 5 points. He gets his 5th game ball of the season. Good for you, Deuce. Up next, Friday night Knicks. No, Saturday night Knicks. Yeah. Saturday night, the New York Knickerbockers at Madison Square Garden take on the Toronto Raptors. Oh, boy. If this isn't going to happen, and the Raptors are a terrible team, by the way. They're still somehow on the play-in, but like they are a bad team. Maybe they'll start picking it up. They're like 15-26. They're not good. But that doesn't matter because tomorrow's going to feel like a playoff game for obvious reasons. I don't think the Garden's going to boo. I think they're going to give them both a great ovation. But I'll tell you what, I don't know if the Garden's going to be happy when they see those two. I have a feeling those two are going to come into tomorrow's game with a chip on their shoulder, especially quick. You know, who does OG guard? Do they put OG on one of those two guys? Who did they put him on last? No, he didn't have. No, he hasn't played them yet. Obviously, maybe he'll be on Barnes. I am very curious to see who OG's gonna, which assignment he's gonna take. I'm hoping it's either RJ or Quickly, but I think Grimes is better suited, even though he comes off the bench, to guard the smaller guards. So maybe OG's gonna have RJ. Maybe you have Dante on Quick. I don't know. It's gonna be fun. There's not a win I want more right now than this. I just want to beat them so bad. I want those two to have horrible games. I know that's unpopular, but I like you when you're not playing the Knicks, you know. And I want the Knicks to just prove to everybody, not that they have to prove it, that they won this trade, which they did. But it can work out good for both teams. Ironic that I just said that after we complained the entire episode about not having the depth. But this trade to me was about the future. It was about cap space. It was also about helping the Knicks on the wing defensively. And they got their floor spacer. Anyways, it's going to be a fun game. I'm going to wrap this thing up, guys. We'll head to our final break here. Get back and we'll get to our trivia. That'll be that. Stay with us. We'll be right back here on BD4, episode 613. Be right back.
You can also find us on social media. If you'd like, you can follow BD4 on Facebook, and we're at BD4Pod on both Instagram and Twitter. We appreciate you helping us grow more and more every day. Let's get back to it. If you have time in the day, or maybe just prefer old-fashioned reading over listening, then you can always follow along and subscribe to BD4 Blog by going to BD4blog.com. We're not on there as often, but when we do post, it's just as entertaining, opinionated, and passionate as we are on this podcast. Thank you so much. And let's keep on with the show.
Studio 69 Productions is a podcast production agency created by Leo Rodriguez to allow content creators to market their podcast. It's an online platform that will market your podcast or any other project that you're working on. Get in touch with Leo Rodriguez from Studio 69 Productions. You can find Studio 69 Productions on Instagram at Studio69NJ. Studio 69 Productions, where dreams are heard and born. Welcome back to the pod, episode 613 of BD4. I'm your host, RJ. Let's wrap this thing up with our trivia. All right, so for this episode 613, our trivia question How many All-Star games have been at the Garden since 2000? How many All-Star games have been at the Garden since 2000? All right, that's it. That's all we got for this show. I appreciate you all tuning in. Episode 613 is in the books. The Knicks defeat the Wizards 113-109 at the Garden last night. Now 8-2 in the new year. And Toronto's up next. That'll be fun. Thanks, everybody, and I'll see you in the next show. This episode was brought to you by Anchor.
Hey there! If you stayed the entire way through, we thank you immensely for it. We hope you enjoyed this podcast and that you come back for the next episode real soon. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, download these episodes, and share them with your friends as well. BD4 is a 5-star podcast simply because of you. And we'd like to keep it that way. Have a wonderful day. Go Yankees and go Knicks.